Yeah. Okay. So, think about this for a second. Picture a garden, a real one in your backyard, and you've got the tomato plants you want, you've got the peppers, you've got the basil, all the good stuff you actually planted, but then mixed in there, you've got weeds, right? And those weeds are like these freeloaders that just show up uninvited. They steal the sunlight, they drink the water, they hog the nutrients from the soil, and if you let them run wild, they will choke out every single plant you actually wanted to grow. That's pretty much the best analogy I can give you for what's happening inside your body when cancer cells start to take hold. The cancer cells are the weeds, and your healthy cells are the plants you actually want to keep around. And the question becomes, how do you get rid of the weeds without accidentally ripping out your tomatoes, right? Because most of the stuff we throw at cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, those are real sledgehammers. They work. They save lives every single day. But they also damage a lot of the good stuff while they're going after the bad stuff. When I was in my medical training, I watched patients go through these treatments, and I kept asking myself, why can't we be smarter about this? Why can't we find something that knows the difference between the weed and the plant? And, honestly, that question is what drove me into research in the first place. Because turns out Mother Nature has been lacing exactly this kind of selective chemistry into vegetables this whole time. Bioactive compounds, little phytochemicals that are tucked inside the cells of plants, and they don't just happen to be in there for fun. In nature, plants use them as their own defense system against bugs, against fungi, against UV radiation. They are the plant's immune system. So when we eat them, we are borrowing millions of years of evolutionary R&D, and inside our bodies those same compounds do something remarkable. They talk to our immune system, they calm down runaway inflammation, and in some cases they can actually convince cancer cells to stop dividing, or even to self-destruct. So, today I want to walk you through 7 vegetables that have real science, like actual peer-reviewed human studies, behind them, vegetables that may help your body fight cancer, and may strengthen your immune system at the same time. And I'm gonna tell you not just what they do, but how to actually cook them and eat them so you get the most out of them, because here's the thing most people miss. You can eat the world's healthiest vegetable and get almost zero benefit if you prepare it wrong. I see this all the time with patients. They buy the good stuff, they cook it to death, they drown it in the wrong dressing, and then they wonder why their labs aren't moving. So stick with me, because the prep tips alone are gonna change how you shop. Let's start with the one everybody's heard of, broccoli, but specifically broccoli sprouts. Now broccoli, as you know, is this little tree-looking vegetable, and it contains a natural compound called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is part of a family of chemicals called isothiocyanates, and they're what give cruciferous vegetables their kind of sharp, almost peppery taste. But here's what blew my mind when I first read the research. Way back in the 90s, a scientist named Dr. Jed Fahey over at Johns Hopkins decided to actually measure the sulforaphane content of 3-day-old baby broccoli, what we call broccoli sprouts. And what he found was that these tiny little sprouts, the ones that look like alfalfa but taste like radish, contain anywhere from 10 to 100 times more glucoraphanin, the precursor to sulforaphane, than a fully grown head of broccoli. That is not a typo, 10 to 100 times. So if you thought eating broccoli was healthy, eating broccoli sprouts is like turning the volume all the way up. Now what does sulforaphane actually do once it's inside you? One randomized double-blind study published in 2016 looked at healthy adults who were given a broccoli sprout homogenate shake, basically a blended drink made from these sprouts, alongside the flu vaccine. And the researchers found that the people drinking the broccoli sprout shake had significantly elevated natural killer cell activity compared to the placebo group. NK cells, natural killer cells, those are the special forces of your immune system, the cells that roam around looking for virally infected cells and early-stage cancer cells and basically eliminating them on sight. So sulforaphane was turning up the activity of those soldiers. Now here's a little pro tip from me. Most people chop off the stems of broccoli and toss them in the trash because they think they're woody and bitter. Don't do that. The stems actually contain about twice as much sulforaphane as the florets. So next time you're cooking broccoli, slice up those stems, throw them in a blender with a little vegetable stock, a pinch of oregano, maybe some garlic, and you've got this amazing creamy broccoli stem soup that tastes fantastic and is doubling your dose of the good stuff. And if you really want to go full send, hunt down broccoli sprouts at your local grocery store, or grow them yourself in a jar on your kitchen counter. They take like 3 to 4 days to grow. Toss them on salads, put them in sandwiches, blend them into smoothies, your body will thank you. Okay. Next up, garlic. Now I know what you're thinking. Garlic? Really? But hear me out, because the science here is actually wild. When you crush a fresh clove of garlic, an enzyme called alliinase converts a compound called allicin into allicin. That allicin is basically garlic's chemical weapon. It's what gives garlic that punchy smell, and it turns out it's also what makes it such a powerful bioactive molecule in cancer research. There was a study published back in 2004 by Uman and colleagues where they exposed cancer cells of both murine and human origin to allicin in the lab. And what they found was that allicin inhibited the growth of those cancer cells. Not slowly, not a little bit, it actually triggered something called caspase-mediated apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed cell death. It's the orderly way that your body tells a sick cell, hey, it's time to go, please pack up and dismantle yourself. Cancer cells are famous for ignoring that signal. They keep dividing, they ignore the stop sign, they evade the immune system, but allicin was flipping the apoptosis switch back on in a meaningful way. Subsequent studies have confirmed this in colon cancer cells, in liver cancer cells, in glioma cells. Allicin was getting those diseased cells to essentially self-destruct while leaving the healthy ones alone. And this isn't just lab work either. There's a growing body of evidence that regular garlic consumption is associated with reduced risk of several digestive cancers. Now my little hack for garlic, and this is something I wish more people knew. Allicin only forms when you crush or chop fresh garlic, and it starts to degrade pretty quickly after that. So if you're one of those people who buys pre-minced garlic in a jar, you're missing out. Take a fresh clove, smash it with the side of your knife, let it sit for about 10 minutes to let that enzymatic reaction finish, and then cook with it. If you cook it, add it toward the end of your cooking. The high heat actually destroys a lot of the allicin. So garlic is one of those rare ingredients where less heat is more. Let it breathe before you cook it, and don't burn it. And yeah, you might have garlicky breath for a while. Consider it a feature, not a bug. Alright, and yes, technically a tomato is a fruit, but nutritionally we treat it like a vegetable, and the cancer research on tomatoes is genuinely impressive. The star compound here is lycopene. Lycopene is what makes tomatoes red. It's a carotenoid, a fat-soluble pigment that's structurally related to beta-carotene but is way more potent as an antioxidant. And here's the thing about lycopene. It's fat-soluble, which means your body absorbs it way better when you eat it with a little bit of healthy fat. So a fresh tomato sliced up on a salad with olive oil is actually better for you, from a lycopene absorption standpoint, than a raw tomato eaten by itself. The cooking actually helps too. Cooking breaks down the cell walls of the tomato and releases more bound lycopene. So tomato paste, cooked tomato sauce, ketchup, ironically they're actually pretty efficient delivery systems for lycopene, because heat plus a little fat is the magic combo. Now what does the science say about lycopene in cancer? There's a really important observational study that looked at men and their dietary intake of lycopene, and what they found was that men with higher lycopene intake had about an 11% reduced risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who consumed the least. And even more interesting, the researchers actually looked at the tumors themselves in a subset of patients, and they found that the tumors in men who had higher lycopene intake showed reduced angiogenesis. Angiogenesis, remember that word, it's the process where cancer cells trick your body into growing new blood vessels to feed the tumor. So lycopene wasn't just correlating with lower cancer rates, it was actually associated with tumors that had a less developed blood supply, which means the tumors were being starved. There's also research suggesting lycopene may help reduce risk for lung cancer and stomach cancer too. My hack for tomatoes: if you want maximum lycopene absorption, cook them with a little olive oil. And if you can, choose deeper red varieties like San Marzano or Roma. The darker the red, the more lycopene per gram. And one more thing, some of my patients ask about lycopene supplements. The evidence is much stronger for whole food sources than for isolated supplements. Whenever possible, eat the tomato. Now let's talk about kale. I know, kale has been trendy, it has had its moment in the smoothie world, but the science on this leafy green is the real deal, and a lot of people don't realize how nutrient-dense it actually is. Kale belongs to the brassica family, along with broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage, which means it's also packed with those glucosinolates, those sulfur-containing compounds that your body converts into isothiocyanates like sulforaphane. But kale has its own special twist. It's also loaded with another isothiocyanate called phenethyl isothiocyanate, or PETC for short, and PETC has been studied specifically for its effects on cancer cell apoptosis and for its ability to modulate inflammation pathways in the body. There are studies suggesting that regularly consuming kale and other cruciferous vegetables is associated with a lower risk of several cancers, including lung, prostate, and colon cancer. And beyond the cancer story, kale is genuinely one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet by weight. More vitamin K, more vitamin C, more beta-carotene per calorie than almost any other green you can name. Now here's the thing that surprised me when I first looked into this. A lot of people eat kale raw, in massaged kale salads, which is fine, but cooking kale actually increases the bioavailability of some of those glucosinolates. Light steaming for about 3 to 4 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. Steaming helps deactivate some of the enzymes that would otherwise break down the beneficial compounds in your gut before your body can use them, but it doesn't destroy the compounds themselves, which are heat stable. So if you're tossing kale into a stir-fry, quick steam it first. And another pro tip. Most people rip out the thick center stems of kale and throw them away. Don't. Those stems are full of fiber, and they contain meaningful amounts of the same glucosinolates you'll find in the leaves. Chop them up finely and sauté them with a little garlic. Or run them through a juicer. They take a little longer to cook, but they are absolutely worth keeping. And I always tell my patients to rotate their greens. Eat kale this week, switch to Swiss chard next week, arugula the week after. Different greens, different bioactive profiles, broader defense for your body. Okay. Number 5. Spinach. Now Popeye may have been onto something, because spinach is one of the most nutrient-dense leafy greens on the planet. It's loaded with carotenoids, especially lutein and zeaxanthin, which most people associate with eye health, but those same carotenoids have been shown in research to have immunomodulatory effects. That means they help tune your immune system, not just blasting it harder, but actually helping it respond more intelligently. There's a 2025 review that specifically looked at how carotenoids interact with the immune system, and they found that lutein and other carotenoids can enhance the function of T cells and B cells. Those are the immune cells that remember past infections and help your body mount a faster response the next time you encounter the same pathogen. Think of them as the veterans of your immune army. Spinach is also rich in folate, magnesium, iron, and a bunch of other micronutrients that your immune cells need to actually do their jobs. You can't fire on all cylinders if you're nutrient deficient. Now here's my hack for spinach. Most people know that cooking spinach reduces its volume dramatically, so a big bag of raw spinach cooks down to almost nothing. That's the water evaporating. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the carotenoids in spinach are fat-soluble, just like lycopene. So to actually absorb them well, you want a little fat with your spinach. Sauté it with olive oil and garlic, add it to an omelet with some cheese, blend it into a smoothie with a little avocado, or a spoonful of nut butter. Without that fat, your absorption of lutein and other carotenoids drops dramatically. So raw spinach in a salad with fat-free dressing is leaving a lot of those benefits on the table. Pair the fat, always. Now we go to carrots, and this one is gonna surprise some people, because carrots have this reputation, right? Like they're good for your eyes because of the beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A, and that's true, it's why your mom always told you to eat your carrots. But the cancer-fighting story for carrots goes way beyond beta-carotene. Carrots actually contain a unique family of compounds called polyacetylens, and the most studied one is called falcarinol. Falcarinol is found in carrots, and in cell studies and animal studies it's been shown to actually decrease cancer cell growth and increase cancer cell death, like, specifically, to encourage apoptosis in those cancer cells, the same kind of orderly cell self-destruction we saw with allicin. The American Institute for Cancer Research has noted that polyacetylenes like falcarinol have demonstrated these anti-cancer properties in laboratory research. And when researchers look at large population studies, they find that people who eat the most carrots consistently have a meaningfully lower risk of developing several types of cancer. I'm not going to give you a specific number because the studies don't all agree, but the direction of the signal is consistent. More carrots, less cancer, across prostate, lung, stomach, colorectal cancers. The carrot is doing something real. Now my little pro tip. Cooking carrots actually increases the bioavailability of falcarinol and the carotenoids, so lightly steamed or roasted carrots are giving you more bang for your buck than raw. And here's something cool. If you've ever wondered why baby carrots sometimes taste sweeter than full-grown carrots, that's because the sugars and carotenoids are more concentrated in younger carrots. But in terms of falcarinol specifically, fully grown carrots actually have more of it. So don't write off the big ugly ones at the store. Those are the medicine, and if you can, buy carrots with the greens still attached. The greens are edible, they're mildly bitter, but they contain additional phytonutrients. You can chop them up and toss them into a pesto or a soup. Zero waste. Okay. Last one, and this one is my favorite, mushrooms. Now I know technically mushrooms are fungi, not vegetables, but I'm including them because the immune research on them is so strong that any conversation about immune-boosting foods would be incomplete without them. The star compounds in mushrooms are beta-glucans, which are basically long-chain polysaccharides, complex sugars that your body can't digest, but that your immune cells can absolutely detect. There's a specific beta-glucan isolated from shiitake mushrooms called lentinin. And lentinin has been studied in actual clinical trials, real human patients with cancer. In Japan, lentinin has been used as an adjunct therapy alongside chemotherapy for decades, and clinical trials have shown that lentinin combined with chemotherapy extends survival in patients with gastric cancer, colorectal cancer, and certain other cancers. The way it works is fascinating. Beta-glucans basically act as training instructors for your innate immune system. They bind to specific receptors on the surface of macrophages and natural killer cells, and they activate those cells. Your immune system sees the beta-glucan, recognizes it as a foreign molecular pattern, and ramps up its defensive posture. It's like a fire drill. The alarm goes off, everyone gets into position, but there's no actual fire. So when a real pathogen or a real cancer cell shows up later, your immune system is already warmed up and ready to respond. And this isn't just lab stuff. There's robust research showing that beta-glucans from mushrooms can increase NK cell activity, stimulate T helper cell responses, and improve outcomes in cancer patients undergoing conventional therapy. Now my hack for mushrooms, and this is incredibly important: cook your mushrooms. I know there's a raw food movement, and some people eat raw mushrooms in salads, but raw mushrooms contain a compound called agarotine, and they also have tough cell walls made of chitin that your gut can't easily break down. Cooking mushrooms breaks down those chitin walls and releases the beta-glucans and other nutrients so your body can actually absorb them. So sauté them, roast them, grill them, throw them in a soup. Just make sure heat is involved, and variety matters. Don't just stick to white button mushrooms. Shiitake, maitake, oyster, even plain old cremini all have different beta-glucan profiles. Mixing them up gives you a broader range of immune-stimulating compounds. So let me zoom out for a second because I want you to understand something I think a lot of people miss about all of this. Your body is not fragile. Your body is not just sitting around waiting to get sick. Your body has these incredible hardwired defense systems: your immune system, your gut microbiome, your DNA repair systems, your regenerative stem cells, your anti-angiogenesis system. 5 different overlapping defense networks, all working 24/7 to keep you healthy. Most days, those systems are winning. They keep the weeds at bay, they patrol the garden, they clean up damaged cells before they become a problem. The truth is, the more interesting question isn't why do people get sick, it's actually why don't we get sick more often. Kids are generally pretty healthy. Healthy adults are mostly fine. Your body is constantly bending the curve toward health. The vegetables we just talked about, broccoli sprouts, garlic, tomatoes, kale, spinach, carrots, mushrooms, they're not magic. They are not going to cure cancer, and I'm not here to tell you that eating a salad is a substitute for chemotherapy, or radiation, or surgery, or any other medical treatment your doctor prescribes. Please hear me on that. But what they do, what the science genuinely supports, is they help create an internal environment that's less friendly to cancer cells and more supportive of your immune system's ability to do its job. They tip the balance, they mow the lawn a little, they prune back the weeds, they train the immune soldiers, and when you stack these together, when you eat a diet that's rich in a wide variety of these bioactive packed plants, you're not relying on any single miracle food, you're feeding the whole defensive ecosystem. That's the strategy, not one superfood, but a whole team of them working together. Now, my biggest takeaway for you: eat the rainbow, eat a variety, and please, learn to cook these properly so you're actually absorbing the beneficial compounds instead of destroying them. Light steam your cruciferous vegetables, pair your carotenoids with healthy fats, crush your garlic and let it rest. Cook your mushrooms, and if you can, grow some broccoli sprouts on your windowsill. It's basically free medicine that you can harvest in under a week. That's it. Stay healthy, eat your vegetables, and I'll see you in the next one.